hell of a report about it. Let's do the thing. Let's go. Yippee-ki-yay!
Our very short-lived, attempts at comedy.
It was only short-lived because you quit doing it.
Well, yeah, but part of working with you is deciding if it's worth your time or not. I had to constantly. It's like it was like pulling teeth. You wouldn't just let it be relaxed and casual. You personally wanted to think it out and plan it out, map it out. And like, I think you were getting too much in your head about it. And I think it was causing, I felt like it was causing you to like, I don't know, like it was stressing you out.
I was fine after the second one when I got really what you were going for.
Yeah. Okay.
But we could still do them. Just pull out the camera. As
Yeah,
long as
you want
there's
to do
a
one now?
decent thing. Whatever, sure.
I don't want to do one right now.
I was watching, I think I gained weight. I was like, man, I look fat in this shirt. I thought it was cool because it's like, it changes colors.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I like that. But then I'm like, I look like a tub of lard sitting here.
Well, now you know how I feel literally every day.
I can't make it, like, I keep wanting to adjust my shirt, and it doesn't matter because it's just wrinkled no matter what I do. Don't wear t-shirts on TV.
On TV? What the fuck is TV? Don't wear t-shirts on TV.
On video?
Yeah, on video.
People say tape, film, all this stuff, but it's never any of that.
Yeah, and the people do the look at this video I filmed yesterday. What?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Film wasn't involved.
Filmmaking is more of a it's kind of like you say, go get me a Xerox, but it just means a copy.
Yeah.
Like filming is more of a process now, and not necessarily did you shoot on film, because I think there's like 5 filmmakers that still shoot on film.
I'm a prolific short filmmaker on TikTok.
Are you?
I make short films all the time.
Oh, I thought you meant you were a short filmmaker.
But that's a given. No matter what I make, it's a short film.
Yeah, you gotta be careful, because we don't want people to think we're working on a short film. So you gotta be careful what you say.
That's interesting. Like when we do the movie with me, it could say a feature-length short film. Right at the beginning, and we'll see if anyone gets that.
A feature-length short film. Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.
Film Reverie Podcast, take 106.
And action. The cat didn't even flinch. Hello, Film Reverie listeners. This is Michael Beckmeyer.
And I'm the balding Ewok. That's who I am.
Yes.
I have ADHD. Maybe move in here. You moved the camera and ruined it.
And we're here with another episode. We've got writer, producer, director Rick Pamplin, who is just about to release a documentary called Movie Money Confidential, and he's the producer. He's the producer director of that, right?
No, actually, writer-director.
Writer-director. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to want to hear all about it. It's about film financing, and I'm wondering how no one's ever made a documentary about how to get films financed before.
Well, I think one of the biggest problems was nobody wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
It's one of the last taboos of filmmaking. And, with the proliferation of, podcasts like yours and books and movies and television and YouTube and all this stuff, nobody really teaches how to raise the money. And,
Yeah.
I checked the curriculum of film schools. They'll teach you how to write a business plan. I know you had Louise Levison on, talking about that. who taught at UCLA for 22 years, who wrote the book Filmmakers and Financing. And they'll teach you to write a business plan. They'll teach you how to write and direct and all of the different elements and adapt a book into a screenplay. But nobody teaches you how to go get the money.
Yeah.
And 65,000 people a year graduate in America with film degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And about 4 of them get jobs.
Yeah.
And the rest of them are trying to figure out how to make a living and how to survive. And so, you know, this movie came out of my own struggle over the years. You know, my background was I grew up in Michigan, went out to Hollywood, got a bachelor's and a master's degree, was homeless, lived in my car. By total accident, became a screenwriting teacher. Did that for 9 years. Sold movies to Universal and Disney and Paramount and Warner Brothers. And I partnered up with a guy named Robert Cosberg, who did a series of movies from Commando to 12 Monkeys. And we developed students' projects, and we sold about 65 scripts to the studios.
Jeez.
But while I could get writing jobs, I really wanted to be a director. And, it was very, very hard. So I made an independent film. It was very, very financially and somewhat creatively successful. It's called Provoked. And it got on United Artists pay-per-view and Showtime. And it was at the point that Blockbuster was exploding. And Blockbuster loved the film. And we had multiple copies in every store. And we were one of the first direct-to-video movies before people looked down their nose at it.
Yeah, that was back when it was still an insult.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I shot the film on 16 millimeter.
Okay.
I think we shot it in 8 days for about $100,000.
Jeez. Okay.
And the picture grossed $5 million.
Okay.
So, it sort of made me realize that I was selling scripts to studios and ideas and treatments and concepts, and maybe making 30 to 50,000 on one film I did that grossed 600 million worldwide. And I went, there's something wrong with this pay schedule here. And also I had no creative control. And then the funny thing is, and I'm sure you guys are aware of this, when you make a hit film within the system and you're nobody, your name sort of disappears and gets erased and your credit gets diminished. And, when a film that you work on that other people meddle with and kind of ruin, they keep your name on it.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22 rigged system for writers.
I do that to Brad all the time.
So after loving Hollywood and working there, from 1976 to 1994, through a personal tragedy in my family, I had an opportunity to come to Florida, and I interviewed with Disney, and I interviewed with Universal, and they both offered me, deals at their studios. And I was relocating my mother, whose husband had died, and she had moved out to California to be near my son, who was 6 at the time. And so there was this family tragedy. Mm-hmm. And I liked Universal a little bit better because they were better set up. They had more sound stages and a bigger backlot. And I was a little bit afraid of Disney creatively interfering. So I ended up making a deal at Universal, and that's where I met you, Michael, and all kinds of great people. And, I worked on all of the Universal films that came to town, things like Waterboy. And then I developed my own films and actually became a member of the Directors Guild. I did a lot of pictures. I worked with a lot of talented people. I worked with Michael Winslow. We brought Ernest Borgnine, Academy Award winner, in to do a picture with us. I worked for NSYNC. I did a documentary with them. And it was a very exciting time in Orlando because there was a great deal of production. And so I had a great run there, but I really wanted to be an independent filmmaker. And I didn't want to be restrained by being in a studio or what happened at Universal. And you probably know this better than anybody, Michael, is they became theme park crazy. They built islands of adventure. They opened hotels. And they really became less of a movie studio, more of a theme park. And, like they would do these things like Mardi Gras and Halloween Horror Nights, and we couldn't even park on the lot. And we would have to close our business at 3 in the afternoon, which was 12 o'clock in Los Angeles. So a lot of my business, and whoever you are, wherever you are as an independent filmmaker, at least for now, you still go through Los Angeles. You still have to deal with Hollywood distributors, labs, movie stars, whatever. So it became very difficult. So I had fallen in love with Palm Beach, and many years ago they asked the bank robber Willie Sutton, why do you rob banks? And he said, that's where the money is. So the largest concentration of wealthy people in America are here in Palm Beach. It's a fantastic place to live in. It really is a great community. They have a huge film office and a great film commissioner who I interview in the movie. And they've been very, very supportive. And I hooked up initially with a place called G-Star Studios, which is also in the movie. And I was the filmmaker in residence for about a year there. And they are the largest working movie studio tied to a school in the world. They won all kinds of awards. They have the G-Star School of the Arts, which is founded and run by Greg Hoffner. And they have the G-Star Studio, which they built a $5 million soundstage, which I shoot on in my movie. So there's a lot of things going on in South Florida that appealed to me, and also the larger talent pool of being able to pull from Miami. So when we made our movie, and I know this is a long answer, and I'll try to make the rest of it shorter.
I mean, they've heard us talk before. We don't want to hear what you have to say. You're all good.
So anyway, we pulled from talent. What was really great, what I love about this, we had talent from Palm Beach County. We had talent from Orlando. Our great sound department of Sergey and Mike and their guys were out of Orlando. My camera guys were out of South Florida, almost to Miami. My composer, who had never done a movie before, Franklin Torres, who's incredibly talented, is Mark Anthony's backup singer and tours the world performing on stage with Mark Anthony. So I was able to pull from Miami. I was able to pull from Orlando, from Palm Beach. So the film was exclusively shot in Florida with an all Florida crew, which I'm really proud of, because I think Florida is one of the best kept secrets in show business for making movies. I think you can make more movie with better production values, with great crews, without terrible attitudes in Florida. And I've shot in Las Vegas, I've shot in Philadelphia, I've shot in New York, I've shot in Los Angeles, I've shot all over the place. And I've been at this for a while. And I will tell you, I find, in my personal opinion, the best locations, the ones that have not been exploited and you haven't seen them 100 times, are in Florida. And we have many different, locations and it's not just ocean and sand and beaches, but we've got all kinds of different, in Palm Beach County, we have, I think, 28 cities that allow one-stop permitting, which is unbelievable. But the crews down here, and you guys must know this, the crews in Florida are world-class, and they're all hungry. They all want to work hard. They all want to learn their craft. I think the average age of my crew was 29 years old. And I think on this last feature, I think I was the only person that had ever made a feature film. And it was very gratifying to me to work with these beginning people who had done, they won Telly Awards and Emmy Awards, and they were accomplished, but they hadn't necessarily done a feature film. And so it was very exciting to bring them together and build a crew from scratch.
Is it because you worked with the crew from that? Talk more about that school. I think Scott DuPont, who'd been on our show, also was telling me a little bit about what that school, and it didn't quite make sense. Is it a high school? Is it a college?
It's a high school. It's a magnet high school. And they don't have a football team, Brad. I'm sorry to tell you. I know you know.
Yeah, I love football. Running between the players' legs and getting to the field goal. Is that what it's called?
Something like that.
One of those. Yeah. And then they can pick me up and throw me. Like, I get the ball, they can throw me, and then I can throw it midair. It's amazing.
That does sound pretty good, though.
It's a magnet high school for really talented, creative kids
Okay.
from all over South Florida. And it's an unbelievable concept that this guy, Greg Hoffner, came up with. And then he built a movie studio with sound stages and production offices.
Mm-hmm.
And he has like a prop department. He has like, vans and camera equipment and all of this stuff, C-stands, lighting, everything, And so when you make a film there, he's kind of your partner, but
Mm-hmm.
he says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to use my students and let my students work for free as interns. So
Yeah.
he's had, the biggest names. They did that Jennifer Lopez, Jason Statham movie that was directed by, I think his name, who? Yeah, Taylor Hackford.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
and the name of the movie is Parker. And
Oh, okay.
the students at G-Star High School are working on this film. And they also use the soundstage for rehearsals for, like Rod Stewart or Stevie Nicks or whoever it is that wants to use it. So the students, Radiohead came down and did a music video that the students all worked on.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember, it was that one that they did with no camera. It was the images, they got sort of the sound waves.
Okay.
And they got like a MTV Music nomination for best music video.
Yeah.
So the students there
That's cool.
are tremendous, and we've worked with a lot of them. And we, like I said, in our new film, Movie Money Confidential, we utilized G-Star. We actually interviewed Greg about how he got in the movie business and what he did and how he started, the studio. And it's a great resource for anybody. And call up, use my name, call Greg and say, I said to call. And he will literally, I think you have to pay the insurance and the utility, and you can have a $5 million soundstage with a catwalk, with the elephant doors, just like he got the blueprint of the sound stages that were built at Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And it's an unbelievable resource. And he has production offices next door. He has a prop department. He has an airplane. He has a van. He has a boat. All this stuff.
Yeah.
And these kids are so great. I know I sound like I'm in a 1950s Kodak commercial, or an old Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland movie. But, there are great things going on in our industry, like Greg Hoffner and G-Star, that I'd love to share with you guys and your audience. And what it does for me as an independent filmmaker, it allows me to make a better movie for less money.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a very funny story. So we called up Greg, and our producers are Scott DuPont and Maggie Pamplin. And Scott, and he still has the first, they always say that if somebody's really cheap, they have the first nickel or the first dollar they made.
Yeah.
Scott has the first 2 pennies he ever made. Not to say he's cheap, right? Brad, you'll get that one on the way
He's just
home.
frugal. Brad also has the first 2 pennies.
Okay.
He holds on to stuff. He
So
hoards stuff.
Okay.
So Brad, if you got together with Scott, you two would have 4 cents. So, but anyway, Scott was haggling with, Greg Hoffner on the thing. And so, I was really busy. I made an old school documentary. I had an outline, but I didn't know what the film was. I didn't know who was going to talk to me. I didn't know what we had. We ended up shooting 100 hours, 60 interviews. And so I was working and preparing. We shot the picture over 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so Maggie and Scott went on a location scout of the studio. Because I knew the studio, and I knew all G-Star, but I had them take pictures. Well, Clint Eastwood's daughter had rented the soundstage and built all these sets for a movie she was doing. And so she had not struck the sets. So the day before I was going to film there, Maggie and Scott went over there, and they came back and they were terrified. And they said, "Oh my God, we don't have the empty soundstage, and there's all these sets." And it was like $1 million of sets.
Yeah.
And so I looked at the pictures and I went, "We'll just use these wood sets,
Production
and
value.
we'll put our people into those sets, and it makes the picture look fantastic."
Yeah.
So, and then what was great, because Greg was like, well, I'm not going to charge you for the soundstage because these sets were standing. I'm like, oh, okay. So we got the soundstage for free. And, I got to use these sets from this Clint Eastwood's Daughters movie, which
Yeah.
were great. So
Production.
it all worked out. I mean, it's funny how these things work out. But to me, I had similar situations in Orlando. In Florida, it's a little bit like the wild west for a filmmaker. It's whatever. If you're a experienced filmmaker and you know what you're doing, there are enormous resources in the state of Florida. And everybody goes on and on about these stupid incentives. Now, I made movies under incentives, and it was great to get a $35,000 check back from the state of Florida.
Yeah.
It was great to get an $8,000 check back, whatever those checks were. But I don't make movies to get an incentive check. It's a very small amount of the budget, and it's a very small amount of the total of what you do. And in our movie, we kind of explode the myth of film incentives. And I'm almost evolving to a point where I'm anti-film incentive because it interferes with the creativity of the filmmaker and the vision. It's a very small amount of money. They put a lot of restrictions on you. You can't have people smoke, or you can't have this, or you can't have that. And to me, if you're a true filmmaker, and I consider myself to be an authentic filmmaker making a legitimate documentary, I don't want anybody telling me what to do. And, I had disagreements with both producers, the executive producer on this film. I had disagreements with the editors, but it's a collaborative medium. Everybody contributes. But these incentives can be very corrupting, and you end up chasing a small amount of money. And in the end, you may damage your film, and it may cost you much more in the end.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you guys have gotten into incentives. Florida doesn't currently have them.
Yeah.
But Florida has a lot of other things to offer that more than make up for the incentives.
Hillsborough County, I just talked to the film commissioner to Hillsborough County. He's going to come on our show soon. They in Hillsborough County, which is Tampa, have, I think, up to 20% incentives just if you shoot your production there. But you're right. I don't know what all the sign your soul away to the devil deals you have to make to acquire all that. But for somebody like us, we're in Orlando, so to even go to Hillsborough County and work that out, we'd have to repo our entire production over there,
which would probably cost.
Which would cost us, because we all the people we know are basically in Orlando.
Yeah. One last point on incentives. When Louisiana started giving away these huge incentives, my then attorney and I went up there. And here's what we learned. And I actually used to write a column in a newspaper, and I wrote a column about this that was published, a Florida newspaper. I think it was called Focus In. And I used to write a monthly column called Pamplin's Perspective. Okay. And I wrote about this. The problem is when you go out of state, it's just like what Brad was alluding to. The cost of moving your crew, relocating everybody, per diems, transportation, housing, all that. But then when you get to that state, everything is retail. There's no discounts.
Right.
When I shoot in Florida, I go in, and here's a great tip for filmmakers watching the show today. I go in, I don't make a movie unless I have all the money. And when we go in, we negotiate a cash up front deal. Now, I've done this with Panavision. Panavision used to have I don't know if they're still there at Universal. They had an office. And I went in and I did 2 Panavision pictures back to back, renting 3 G2 Gold packages, which is the top of the line with the $250,000 to $350,000 lenses. And I mean, they're incredibly expensive. And then you got to get the grip truck, and you got to get all the expendables and all that stuff. So I went in and I said, look, I will prepay you everything for Panavision, but you got to give me a discount. And they said, no one's ever said that before. And I said, well, what do I care if the money's in the bank? You could have it. Yeah. And they said, well, what if you go over budget? And I said, well, we'll sign a note for credit. We'll give you more than you want. You can refund the difference. Mm-hmm. Well, what about everybody that steals expendables off the truck? I said, well, I'm hiring some off-duty police officers from Orlando, and no one's going to steal anything off our movie. And I have to tell you, we had that Expendables truck parked outside Soundstage 22 at Universal, and I did 2 movies back to back. No one stole a roll of tape off those trucks because I had those off-duty police officers that they drove the movie stars, and they stood around in their polo shirts that said Orange County Sheriffs, and nobody in the crew stole anything, not a screw, not a roll of gaffer's tape. It was fantastic. And because in every budget, there's a certain amount of money for pilferage of the crew stealing things off of, the box truck. Yeah. So anyway, so they came back and they gave us like a 15% discount, which was a huge amount of money. Yeah. Then we went to the lab. Then we went to Technicolor in Hollywood where we did the answer print, and we prepaid everything, and we ended up saying 15% across the board, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And I do it on every film now. Yeah. And it really works. And if you don't have all the money, you really shouldn't start shooting your movie. You should have all of your money, a 10% contingency. You should be a little over budgeting in your budget, and you should go in and prepay every vendor you can and ask for a 10 to 15% discount. And you'd be amazed. Now you have to have good credit, and you have to have references to do that. But to me, so many people come to Florida and they're fly-by-night companies, and they come into Florida and they don't want to pay their bill. So, they tack on the cost of collecting it or suing you or whatever. So I worked out this relationship with Florida vendors. I even did it, I shouldn't say this, Universal Studios. I was able to negotiate with them as well when I would rent sound stages and the makeup room and all of the amenities there, which are very expensive. But they loved the idea that we would prepay up front, and we got a discount because we had 5 offices there and we were part of the family. Yeah. But, I think the more you can be a savvy business person as a filmmaker, and Florida allows you that, I think, more than other states. Yeah. You can make a lot more movie for a lot less money and put a lot more quality on screen and pay your crews better.
You said a couple minutes ago about you were talking about how when people come out of film school, there's like 5 jobs available and 100 people trying to get those 5 jobs. But what most of us wanted to do when we went to film school or when we started was to make movies. Like a lot of us don't. I got into it because I wanted to make my own movies, not necessarily work on somebody else's movies and take shit from people for, I don't know, however many hours a day. So that's what I've been working on this whole time. And the fact that films are getting so much easier to shoot, and the idea of learning how to finance your own film really does put like power and control back in your hand. And it's so much easier now to go through the process, finance your film, get produced, get made, and then get out with distribution. Or even if somebody decides or ends up not getting distribution, releasing it themselves. There are like ways now to do that weren't there. Some of them weren't even there like 5 years ago. So 5-10 years ago weren't even really a thing. So absolutely, it does give people the opportunity to be like truly independent filmmakers and not just PA on a set which there's nothing wrong with that. I have friends that do that, but just instead of spending 15 or 20 years working your way up, to still struggle to sell a script or get somebody to look at your script or option a script or anything like that. You can just kind of work just as hard and do it yourself. Probably even work harder. There's a quote, and while you were talking, I remember you said this 20-something years ago, and it stuck with me. It's one of the few little nuggets from my 20s that like burned itself in my brain. You said to be a filmmaker, you have to be willing to be a 50-year-old taxi driver.
Yeah, I stole that from Dustin Hoffman.
Okay.
When I first started, I'll try to make this quick because I don't want Brad to nod off again.
That's gonna happen anyway.
Yeah,
you could be the most compelling person.
I've seen the podcast. I know the challenge of talking and keeping Brad awake. So, I started off as an actor. I went to Hollywood to be an actor.
Really? Okay.
And I went, and the first thing I did was I went to the Lee Strasberg Film and Theater Institute in Hollywood. And I signed up and I started taking classes there. And in those days, that was on Hollywood Boulevard. It was upstairs in the second floor above Diamond Jim's restaurant. And Lee Strasberg was teaching there, and Ernie Martin and Shelley Winters, and just an amazing, and De Niro had gone there, and Pacino and Brando and Marilyn Monroe. And I mean, you'd go in there and it was a magical place.
Yeah.
So every Friday, Lee Strasberg would have some, student or alumni or friend come back. And Lee was acting in those days. He was doing Godfather 2 and Going in Style and all these movies. And, some of the students when I was there, like Sissy Spacek was a student, and, all these different people. And it was just unbelievable. So every Friday night, Lee would invite someone. Like one night it was Jack Nicholson and Roman Polanski. And another night it was Dustin Hoffman. And so Dustin Hoffman came in and talked about the fact, I think he was 28 years old when he got his first acting job. And he'd been a waiter and a dog walker, and he'd done everything in the world to make it as an actor. And then he did an off-Broadway play, and he actually was the second choice for The Graduate. Charles Grodin was the first choice, but Charles Grodin wanted, too much money, and he wanted like $1,000 a week. And they offered him $500, and Dustin Hoffman ended up negotiating $750. So The Graduate was supposed to be with Charles Grodin, which would have been amusing. But anyway, it was Dustin Hoffman's first film. So Dustin Hoffman was very passionate. It was a great, great evening with Dustin.
Yeah.
And I later, as an actor, did a picture with Dustin. And I remember in the scene, I have to bump him in the arm. And so the assistant director comes over and he goes, "Now, there's no talking to Mr. Hoffman, and you can't, get in his sight line. And don't get near him." And I'm like, well, I'm in the scene with him, but we physically touched.
I need that in my contract.
Yes.
Yes. Stay away from me.
Yeah. Yes. So anyway, Dustin get the very famous quote. He said, "If you really want to make it in this business, you've got to be willing to fail and be a 65-year-old taxi cab driver."
Yeah.
And it really stuck in my brain. And I made that commitment. I was homeless for 90 days. I've hosted radio shows. I've been a boom guy and held the thing. I've been a production assistant. I've been a script doctor. I've been a screenwriter. I've done all these different jobs, and I did acting jobs. Most of the acting jobs I did were small parts, glorified extra parts, or under 5. Yeah. But I had gone to military school, and I knew how to fire a gun, and I knew how to do a physical stunt. So I used to get hazard pay. So I'm in many scenes in old movies and TV shows going, "He's got a gun," and then there'd be a shootout, because I wasn't afraid of the squibs and I was good with the guns.
Yeah.
And so I was in a liquor store in Hollywood in a shootout. I was in a Barnaby Jones shootout. I was in a Del Vecchio shootout. So I made my bread and butter as an actor.
That's cool.
Being in shootouts. That was kind of, and I generally, I think in 3 movies I have a line, "He's got a gun." That was my line.
So what do you, if you had 5 minutes with somebody to tell them what you thought they needed to know about getting a film financed, what are some of your,
it's a great question. Nobody's asked me that. And I've been doing a lot of these interviews for the film. The first thing, and this is going to be self-serving, but it's very, very truthful. The first thing you should do is watch our movie. We spent 2 years putting it together. We contacted everybody. We leave no stone unturned. We've got attorneys, investors, financiers. We've got movie stars, Burt Reynolds, Salma Hayek, producers, writers, directors. We shot over 100 hours to get a movie that runs 1 hour and 41 minutes. We have real life investors in our movie telling you why they invested in movies. We had 7 investors one day cancel because they decided they didn't want to be on camera. It was not easy, guys, to get investors and these people to talk about why they invest in movies or what the secrets are. So we wanted to make a bold movie that revealed all the secrets so somebody could watch the movie. I was trying to keep it to 90 minutes. Our first cut was 3.5 hours, but I got it down to 1 hour and 41 minutes. and I guarantee you'll have to watch it 2 or 3 times because it's loaded with information. And we transcribed all of the interviews, and we made very sure. And Maggie Pamplin was a great producer. She went over every word so that nobody repeated anything. So there's nothing repeated. One of my pet peeves is a movie that repeats, a scene or an image I hate that. Yeah. So this is a totally original, and we would set out and we would say, well, this segment will be 19 minutes, and we go interview the people, and they didn't have anything interesting to say. In fact, some of the investors are really mad at me because we interviewed the investors in our film, and I didn't think they had anything interesting to say, and I cut them down, and they're really mad at me. But I said my loyalties to the audience, and luckily I'm in the Directors Guild, and I had a contract that I had final cut. So nobody could tell me what to do. Yeah. So a lot of the investors in this movie, when you meet them, they're going to say, oh, that damn Rick Pamplin, I had a lot of great stuff to say, but they really didn't. And so we went right for the essence of it. So like the 19-minute segment would be 6 minutes, and then we go interview somebody that we thought would be 6 minutes. I'll give you an example, Burt Reynolds. Yeah. Burt Reynolds was very difficult. Yeah. We chased him. I've been chasing Burt Reynolds my whole life. Yeah. I met Burt. I went to the set of a movie.
Did you ever hold him at gunpoint?
In Las Vegas. Yeah. I'm sorry, what, Michael?
I said, did you ever hold him at gunpoint?
Well, we'll get there. So I was in Las Vegas, and I was a writer-director on a TV show, the original Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
Okay.
And there's a comedian that I wrote jokes for in the Splash Show, which was the Riviera Hotels show that won the show of the year for 5 years. And I would write jokes for $100 a joke for Joey Villa. God bless him. He's no longer with us. He was a Jerry Lewis protege. So he comes into me one night. He goes, hey, I just got cast in this Burt Reynolds movie. You want to come hang out and meet Burt? And I'm like, yeah, of course I do. Yeah. And he says, well, I want you to drive me because it's like, it's a shoot. I got to do my show. And, so we get out, and there's ambulances and police cars. And, we show up at this set, and, we're like, wow, what's going on? And it looked like what you thought a Burt Reynolds movie would look like. Total chaos. Police, ambulances, cute girls. I mean, all this stuff running around. And so we go up there, and Burt had a disagreement with the director, and apparently the director fell on Burt's fist and it broke his jaw. I don't know how that happened. And so Joey goes, do you want to meet Burt? I'm like, no, not tonight. No, not tonight. So I went and stood as flat against the wall as I could, kind of blending in. And then one time, one of the guys in the movie is a financier named Ken Hickman. And I had moved down to Palm Beach, and there's a great restaurant called the Jetty. And it was Burt's favorite restaurant, and it's owned by this guy, Jim Truby. And Ken said, I want to take you there for your birthday. And you sit out opposite the Jupiter Lighthouse on the Intercoastal. The food is fabulous. And they sat me next to Burt Reynolds. And Burt wished me happy birthday. It was unbelievable. Nice. So I've been chasing Burt my whole life. I had a project in Hollywood I was trying to get he and Sally Field to do. I had all kinds of studios involved, and it was a Spade Cooley story. So I finally, I get to Burt Reynolds. And they go, well, you can have, 15 minutes to set up. And I'm like, no. We're shooting 3 cameras, 4K. We've got a slider on the camera. We're not going to light and set up in 15 minutes for Burt. Well, you can have a half an hour. No. I want an hour. Well, the school, he wants to shoot at his school. And, I said, I get an hour. We don't do Burt. Now, this is what, as you become a veteran director, you've got to have courage and conviction. And I was not going to shoot a sloppy interview with Burt Reynolds.
Right.
So they reneged and gave us an hour to set up. So we get there, and of course, there's a banner about the school, and there's all this crazy stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to shoot. Well, you can't touch that. So Maggie, the producer, who also was the production designer, I said, Maggie, go take that banner down and get rid of that and put that chair over here. They're going, you can't do. I said, I'm a DGA director, damn it. I can do whatever I want to do. It's like Blazing Saddles when Slim Pickens hits the guy and says, you can't do that. And he says, I work for Mel Brooks, damn it. So I sort of had that attitude. So I rearranged Bert's entire stage and school. We took an hour and we set it up. We were told we could have 15 minutes with Bert. And the very first question he said was, we got 3 cameras and lighting, and I got my crew. And he says, who do I look at or talk to? I said, right here, Bert. And Bert goes, do I have to look at you? And I was like, whoa.
He was prickly.
well, the first few minutes, you'll see it wasn't always great. But he warmed up. So 15 minutes became 30, and 30 became 45, and 45 became an hour, and an hour became an hour and 50, and Bert just let it fly. Mm-hmm. And he put down all the pretenses and the goofing around, and we really got into what does it take? How did he do what he did? Young people today, how do writers, directors, actors, how do you get in the business? It was an unbelievable interview, unlike anything you've ever seen Burt Reynolds do. And I mean, and I had told the crew, no photographs, no autographs, no sight lines. I said, if I have to get Dustin Hoffman in here, there'll be no looking in the sight line of the star. And so I really had my crew, and I made everybody dress in black. I said, please, Mr. Reynolds has been sick. He's been ill. This is really rare that we're going to get him. I said, I love this man. I want to get a great interview. And so at the end of the interview, I was all, mic'd up in headphones and all that. And Bert, come here. And I went over and he said, I really can't walk. Could you lift me up? And I said, okay. And he said, I want to go to that chair over there. And I said, Maggie, come here. So she, and he put his arm around Maggie and we put him over to the chair. And he said, don't you guys want a picture with me? And I said, well, only if I can get the whole crew in it. And he said, get him over here. So he had his manager, Todd Vittum, one of the great guys I've ever met, came over with his iPhone and took pictures of us with Bert. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And we turned it around. So what we thought was going to be, a little bit ends up being a lot more Bert, because Bert had great things to say. And so, in a real documentary, you should go out with an outline and shoot all you can shoot and then, get it. I remember my editor going, we have 100 hours of footage. I had to go sit for a week and just watch footage, and we had to make notes and everything. And I remember the editor going, how can we cut it down less than 3.5 hours? And then we go in and we do another cut, and we do another cut, and we do another cut. And then at one point, Scott DuPont, who I love dearly, I love Scott. I'll make fun of him in this interview and every interview I ever do. But
just like me and Brad.
Scott flew down and gave me a page of notes, and I looked at it and went, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not. Oh, by the way, I fired the colorist. And Scott said, you're not a producer. You can't. I said, well, I did. I fired the colorist. Everything on his reel is green, and I don't want green on my movie. And I said, oh, by the way, I said, listen, I'm not making this up. You call Scott and ask him. And I said, Scott, and by the way, I fired the attorney. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, the attorney wrote a nasty email about another female attorney that's in the movie that I thought was misogynistic and violent and threatening. We fired the attorney. Scott said, you don't have we're in the screening room with the crew. Scott goes, you don't have the authority to fire the attorney. I said, well, I fired him. He's done. And then we had problems with the music, and I wasn't getting what I wanted. And eventually we replaced the music, and I brought in Franklin Torres, the young, genius, the composer who I love so much, and did a great score. So this is the longest answer probably to any question. Number one, watch my movie. If you're not interested now,
right?
Okay. Number two, go buy Louise Levison's book, Filmmakers and Financing. There's a brand new 9th edition coming out on March 24th. I wrote chapter 14, and I let it fly. I interviewed myself, and I really told the way it is. And Louise did a tremendous job. And here's what's different about Louise's book. I know you guys have had Louise on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This book was written for the post-pandemic way to get a movie made.
Yeah.
And the third thing that I would do, I would hire Louise to write a business plan. Because I don't know how you maintain artistic integrity if you don't have a written business plan, and you don't have a lawyer, and you don't get the investors to sign off. because even with that, I've been sued by investors. And you want to let the investors know, this is what you're signing. This is the budget. This is what we're going to do. But you don't have any editorial control. You don't have any say in the movie. And here's what we think it might do. Worst case, middle case, best case. Okay? Mm-hmm. And she wrote the business plan for the Blair Witch Project. And we talk about that, by the way, a lot. I know you guys talked about it on your podcast. Mm-hmm. But she really lets it fly in our movie about Blair Witch and the truth. And we actually put the budget on screen and the business plan on screen. And we tell the absolute truth. Uh-huh. I paid thousands of dollars to buy clips and artwork from Blair Witch to put in this movie because I wanted to tell, and I know all 5 guys.
Yeah.
And, I hired Dan as an editor in Orlando, and I know all these guys. They're great guys. And I've worked with them. I've worked with Greg Hale, Dan Myrick, Eduardo. These guys, they're great guys. Yeah. But what they did was unbelievable. But the true story's never really been told. And so many people come to me and go, well, the Blair Witch, and I'm like, no, that's not really true. So we just decided to set the record straight with Louise. But those would be the 3 things that I would do. Very simple. I think you can download our movie starting on March 1st for like $5 or $6. Yeah. You can buy her book. You can get, if you go to the publisher, Filmmakers and Financing, you can get a discount. And I'm sure she'll will and deal with you and make it a good deal to write a business plan. And then get a good lawyer.
Okay.
Get the best lawyer you can get because so many people are litigious and so many people are greedy. And I don't know where you guys fall on this, but I'm a big fan of the auteur theory. There has to be a singular vision for a film.
Yeah.
The greatest films ever, whether it's Coppola or John Cassavetes, who I worked for, or you got to have a vision. And there's a very famous quote, and I ran into this on my film, and this is probably the purest Rick Pamplin film ever made, because I didn't listen to anybody, and I fought with everybody, and I had a lot of swagger. I said, I am the mother effing Shore Patrol. I'm a DGA director. I've been nominated on the Oscar ballots. I've been nominated on the DGA ballots. I've had movies in theaters. I've made hit films. I've failed. I lived in my car. What are you going to tell me? I am the director. And I honestly think this is my best. My son, who's my biggest critic, who's 32 years old. I think he turns 33 soon. Uh-huh. I'll have to check that. Yeah. My son flew in, and he looked at the film, and he said, Dad, this is the best thing you've ever done. And he said, this is unbelievable. We screened it the other day for a woman who, a really intelligent woman. And she said, I'm not interested in film financing, but man, did I love your movie. Yeah. Because it's a movie about inspiration and empowerment. And Michael, you hit on this earlier, and I want to reinforce it. And I want to add one extra caveat to it.
Okay.
Right now, you can make more movie for less money than ever before in the history of cinema. Better production value, better sound, better images, the acting is better, the color balancing, and there's more ways to sell it than ever. It's unbelievable. When you go on moviemoney.com on from March 1st on, we're going to have listed where you can stream our movie. I'm talking about Time Warner. I'm talking about Spectrum, Comcast, Vimeo, Vudu. We couldn't believe the acceptance that we had with this film, and Amazon and the places that loved the film. And we're going to be in a selected theaters. Scott is in charge of all that. I don't really know. We're going to be in 3 or 4 cities in theaters, but mainly we're going to be on streaming. And the business has changed, and a lot of people are resisting it. Well, we're going to give the theaters a year or 2 and they're going to come back. No, they're not. There's a big consolidation. Paramount, CBS, Viacom, HBO, Warner Brothers. What's going to happen, you used to have 7 major studios. You're going to have a few conglomerates. They're going to try like hell to figure out their business model, because it's not going to be Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. It's not going to be the Marvel movies. It's not going to be James Bond. because they'll never be able to get that money back. They'll never be able to get 280, 300, 400 million dollars back.
Yeah.
So some theaters will I love theaters. I want theaters.
Yeah.
But it's going to be slow and it's going to be very painful. It's going to be very painful before we get back to the theatrical experience being common to people, not only in this country, but all over the world.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand, and here's one of my big tips that I want to share with you guys and your audience. The money for independent filmmakers right now, keep your budget under $1 million if you can, but definitely under $5 million. Look at streaming and digital downloads. Forget all this other nonsense. Forget theaters, forget DVDs, forget, selling it at Walmart, forget Redbox. You can still do all that stuff. But the numbers that are driving pictures right now are streaming and digital download. Yeah. And I want to tell you something. It's unbelievable. And I was talking to my son the other day, and he recently moved. And he had gotten up to, I don't know, $300-400 and all these, cable things. And so he started off and he said, I just rent the movies I want to watch. So every night we go on and we go to Apple or, whomever, Vudu, and we just rent a movie. And at the end of the month, it's cheaper. And he goes, and he said, I'll pay $20 to stream a movie and I'll have a couple come over. And my wife and I and the other couple, 4 of us, my son has a 100-inch television. He has Axios, Dolby, in his condo. And they'll watch the movie. And they don't have to put up with annoying teenagers. They don't have to put up with people on their iPhones and the light and, noise. And all. They can hear the dialogue. They can stop it. And I love streaming. I love theaters. But if you're an independent filmmaker trying to break in and you're not embracing streaming and you're not embracing digital downloads, digital download is DVD on demand. Yeah. In the old days, you'd have to go make 20,000 DVDs, ship it to Walmart, ship it to whomever, and pay for all that. Pay the freight, pay for it. And then if they didn't sell them, they would send them back, and you had to pay for them. Yeah. So, you had to come up with enormous money. All of this came under the big umbrella called P&A fund, print and advertising fund. Mm-hmm. Well, now, when you deliver a film, like on our film, we shot on 4K, multiple cameras, and we have 4K Dolby sound. Mm-hmm. And it's unbelievable. It's fantastic. The lab even said to us, this is one of the best mixed and shot films I've ever seen. Some of the early reviews came out. The Dove Foundation raved about the picture quality, the sound quality of our movie. And we're competing with multi-million-dollar films, which we're not one. Mm-hmm. But I have Salma Hayek, I have Burt Reynolds, I have a topic that nobody's ever talked about. Yeah. And, we're already getting tremendous, positive feedback on that. So I think that this is going to be something that I talk to a lot of independent filmmakers, Michael, and they don't get it. Well, I'm trying to raise 15 million. Well, 15 million, you're in no man land. I'm trying to raise 10 million. You're in no man land. Yeah. You're in 5 million. That's a bit risky. Try to get under $1 million, because you can recoup that on streaming and digital download, and you can have total creative freedom. The 2 hardest things in filmmaking, and I know you guys know this, fundraising and distribution. The rest of it's relatively easy compared to fundraising and compared to distribution. Yeah. And
I'm in the middle of it right now. I'm beating my head against the wall. Yeah.
Well, after this, call me and let's talk. I'll see what I can do. Okay. Because a lot of the success of filmmaking is networking. And if I can help you guys, hard. Somebody interviewed me the other day for the film, and they said, "Oh, you're such a good person. You want to help people, and you helped people when you were teaching screenwriting for 9 years, and you sold 65 scripts from students, and now you made a movie to help people." Yeah, that's true. I do want to help people. Yeah. But I'm also desperate to have a career. I'm desperate to have a roof over my head. I'm desperate to work. I'm desperate to make DGA movies so I have a pension. So when someday I get old and want to retire, which will be never, Clint just made a movie. He's 92 years old.
I know. I saw it.
my
I
God.
Saw it. He was.
I
He
love
was
Clint.
moving. I
He's
do too.
gonna
My
be-
I do.
publicist is about to turn 92.
Oh,
And I talk to him almost every day, and he sharpens the tack. So I guess 90 is the new 50.
I guess so.
He's
I mean,
gonna be making movies from his deathbed.
yeah.
He'll be in his coffin.
He'll be
a corpse,
squinting in the coffin. Yeah.
still like.
You know, I turned. I'm 48. Okay, so I saw pictures of my dad when he was 48, and he looked like an old man.
Yes.
But my like yours, like 50 is a new 30, all that stuff. It's so much. We're so much more health conscious and everything. I mean, Clint Eastwood, and especially multi-million guy Clint Eastwood, they can take care of themselves a little bit, and he's I don't know. I think staying busy is probably keeping him
What?
on his feet.
Healthy on his feet, yeah.
Yeah, something to work on, something to concentrate on.
One thing though is the older he gets, the less I can understand what he's saying.
We gotta get you up on your feet so you don't die soon, Brad.
It's a struggle.
It is a struggle. Sometimes I wonder if it'd just be easier if we let you go.
On you, maybe.
On me, definitely. Okay, so if somebody's you just told us your website a second ago. Remind people where
Moviemoney.com.
Moviemoney.com.
We'll have a complete list of the theater. We're also doing a lot of specialty screenings. I know in Orlando, where you guys are, we're doing Rollins College. We're doing Full Sail. We're doing site licenses and speakers and all that.
Yeah.
Colleges have gone crazy over the film.
Yeah.
We're doing Kaiser University down here, and they're actually going to stream it to all their campuses in Florida.
Oh,
So, but the power of the film, moviemoney.com, just go there and we'll have a complete list of everywhere you can see the film. But the power of the film, and you really stole, my smoke, Michael, earlier. It's to empower and educate and enlighten and hopefully inspire everybody to raise the money, make a film, and to listen. And we did a couple of very interesting things. I got to tell you this a great bit. We did 2 panels. So we went to St. Andrew's School, and we took all these actors and writers and directors and filmmakers, and we did a panel with Louise Levison, Scott, and myself. It was tremendous. It really is. It's one of those segments that was going to be 6 minutes and it ended up being 19 minutes.
Right, okay.
And we interviewed the film teacher, Angela, who's just unbelievable. You got to see her. And what kids care about, and, what you're teaching kids about film and what kids, all this. And it was unbelievable. Then we went to this hipster coffee shop, which is called Harold's, what's it called, Maggie? Harold's Coffee Lounge. And it's in the Northwood Arts District. And it's all of the hipsters and the poets and the writers and the actors and the filmmakers. And they've got art on the wall. And they have like all these events every night. Poetry readings, music, whatever. So we did a panel there. And we invited anybody in Palm Beach County that wanted to pitch a movie or wanted to ask questions. And we took Louise and Scott and me. And we did it outside at night. It was a great turnout, great group of people. And so a guy comes in and he pitches us, and the audience kind of laughs at him. And I'm like, no. He came, he wrote a screenplay. You're all wrong. He's right. And I give this like emotional speech, and his name is Palmer. And he is so inspired by just attending this event while we're filming. He goes out and raises the money and has made the film and is in post-production as we speak.
That's good.
That was one guy. While we were filming, we've already birthed the movie.
So
my dream is that 1,000 movies come out of our movie inspiring people.
I saw a quote. You were talking about the audience laughing at him. I teach high school TV production. That's currently my current prison. But they make fun of people who care. Like it makes them so uncomfortable to see someone trying hard and working on something and to care about something, and people sort of tease them. But I saw a quote, I think it's a Denzel Washington quote, that said, "No one, you'll never be made fun of or picked on by somebody who's working harder than you." And it does like that guy, he got teased and whatever. He went off and he did the thing, and what the fuck does he matter if anybody, like, he's making his movie. Like, those people are still probably just making fun of people for wanting to do things and wanting to, really honestly work hard on something that you care about. It's so uncool to care these days. It's not uncool. Like, I think it's hip to be square, I guess, but it's so like, just by saying, hey, I care about this, it, like, you enter in, like, I don't know if you ever read The War of Art, the Stephen Pressfield book. It's like that is the initial thing. I care about this. The initial thing is people. What do people think? What is this? The resistance that keeps like boomeranging back to you, and you just have to push past all that and say, "Fuck it, I'm going to go do my thing." Anyway, that's what you were saying.
You're absolutely right. I'm working on a film that I wanted to make when I was 17 years old. I actually made it in a prep school, and the film teacher flunked me. And it was a movie inspired by the Concert for Bangladesh, and it was about feeding starving children all over the world.
Yeah.
And I went, after I made this film, I had some heat on my career, and I went to investors and I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give away $25 a day, and I'm going to change the world. I'm going to give away $10,000 in a year. I'm going to make a movie about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to start with starving children in Bangladesh, and I'm going to do microloans, and I'm going to give money to UNICEF and George Harrison's name. And every investor said, oh, you can't change the world. Oh, $25 a day is nothing. So now my wife and I have given away $10,000 of our money, self-financed it. And I get letters from people that were run out by drug cartels and are living in mountains.
Yeah.
And I'm buying baby formula for them. I get letters from people for water wells in Africa that I helped build. I get the second person I gave money to was a woman whose husband died, and she had 2 children. She was a widow, and her husband was a fisherman, and they needed money to buy food and fishing nets, and I funded her. And she wrote me a letter recently that her 2 teenage sons are now fishermen, and that our $25 coupled with other $25 saved their lives in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I'm in Ghana, and I'm in, how many countries are we in? 64? I'm in 64 countries. So I finished this on December 31st. I'm still doing it. Every day of my life, I'm giving away $25 to help people that are impoverished all over the world that I'll never meet, in countries I can't pronounce. And I'm building toilets in the Philippines. I'm putting clean water in Africa. And you know what? This is something I wanted to do since I was 17. And I let every SOB bastard in the movie business, in Hollywood, in film school, even my own family and ex-girlfriends tell me I couldn't make this movie. And my own movie convinced me I could make this movie.
My movie's so good that before I made
I changed my own mind.
It convinced me to make it.
I've been thinking about this a lot lately because, the world, the way the world is and all that stuff. And I meditate a lot. I'm a daily meditator. So I've been thinking about how the changing the world thing, and I think the only thing we can do to change the world is you have to be the one,
be the example.
Be the one thing. Like, you can change yourself one breath at a time, and that's the only way to do anything, is to start with yourself and what you can do, and then that ripples out. Because it's hard to convince, well, be honest, it's hard to convince Brad to do anything, but to convince Brad to try to change the world with me is harder than me just going out and doing it. I'm giving you a lot of shit, but it's fun.
Yeah, because that's not true. Anyway, he's just joking. It's hard to get me to move and do things.
Yeah, no, but
I'm totally up for.
But you're a terrible person.
Changing the world. It's just I need you to do most of the work.
Right. So let's see what I'm saying.
I'll you cheer you along.
No, so that's awesome. So what is? Do you know when that's coming out? Like, do you know?
Well, I what's happened is I've been offered another picture, and the money was attached. So next month I start another movie.
Yeah.
It's that old saying: when you're a guy and you want to get a girlfriend, it's really hard. Mm-hmm. And the key to getting a girlfriend is to have a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Because when you have a girlfriend, then they all come on to you.
Yeah.
So the key to getting movies funded is have a movie coming out that's getting good buzz, because I've been offered another movie after that. Yeah. So I've decided to go a second year, and I'm reinvesting. I got back 7,000 of the 10 I gave away in microloans came back, and I'm reinvesting it.
That's
so I'm
sweet.
actually doing 2 years, but I'm changing people's lives. And I got to tell you, it's like a drug. And,
Yes.
and I know you were joking, but if you're not working to change the world, you're part of the problem.
Yeah.
And,
It does.
as many days and, hours and weeks and months and years as God will give me, I am here to do what I'm trying to become the filmmaker I was when I was 17 years old, before I listened to the teachers in film school, before I got 2 college degrees, before I went to Hollywood, and before I worked at Universal Studios. I don't care about any of that anymore. I'm going to make the movie. If I have to self-finance, I'll take all the profits of this movie I just made, and I'll put them in another movie. Francis Ford Coppola, who I love, and we don't have time. If you ever have me back, I can tell you Francis stories. But Francis was very supportive to me early in my career. I worked for his sister, Talia Shire, reading scripts. And she was a wonderful actress and a wonderful person. And I learned a great deal from Francis Coppola. And for my master's thesis, I did it on Godfather. And Francis interviewed with me on the phone, and it was just terrific. Francis is putting up $120 million of his own money to make a film, because no studio will finance the single greatest director of our lifetime.
I know.
The Apocalypse Now, The Conversation, Godfather 1, Godfather 2. Oh, no, we're not going to fund you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. I love Francis Coppola so much that when I read that article in GQ and Variety's follow-up interview with Francis, I love Francis Coppola. I love his films. I love his work. And I'm going to imitate him. I'll fund my own movies. I don't care anymore. I was sued and I got an ugly lawsuit, 3 lawsuits and 9 counts, and it went 5 years and $50,000 in legal fees, and we were exonerated in depositions and tax returns. And people like to litigate in this business. People like to smear you. People like to hurt people. People like to be mean. And I just learned to ignore all that. So I sold all my art, all my jewelry, my furniture. I don't care. I live simple. I am about my movies, because if I die and I haven't made the film I wanted to make when I was 17, in my view, I'm a loser and I'm a failure.
Yeah. That is exactly how we feel.
Yeah.
Like whatever it takes.
That's what's wrong with you.
We need to get, like, we're willing to, at first, we realized when we first, get our first, like, official movie. We made a feature film, but like our first big movie that everyone gets to see, it doesn't have to be the perfect
opus,
thing. It can be the building
You just
block.
have to love it. You just have to love it enough to want to make it.
Yeah. So it's just like, that's what I need to do. I need to make some of the films that I've had inside, and you too, like, before I die.
Yeah.
Like, I need to get some
But
films
that day
out.
is looming. The end is nigh, Brad. We
know.
have to hurry.
No, here's what you do. Go get a glass jar, Brad, and figure out how many years you think you're going to live, and put a marble in for every year. Now listen to me. Let's say you think you're going to live to be 99 years old. Put 99 marbles in a glass jar, and then take out every year that you've lived a marble, and realize as that jar goes down every year, you're going to have limited opportunity. And that's I have an urgency and a fire in my belly.
Yeah.
I have 7 films right now in development. I want to make every film I can make, and I don't care if Scott DuPont fires me. All right? Who cares? I kept firing people, and I figured I'd be the next one to go. But luckily Scott didn't. He was a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
We actually made a great movie. I'm embarrassed normally to say that, but this is a great movie. This will help people. It changed my life. It'll change your life. If you love Bert, you got to come see Bert's last movie. Yeah. If you love Salma Hayek, God, she's wonderful. Yeah. We have some great people in the movie. It's very entertaining. And I would be shocked if you two don't love my movie. I
don't love anything.
We're gonna be there. We'll be at your Orlando. I think we might make both of them, but I think we're gonna definitely be. We'll be at one of them at least.
Yeah, talk to Scott. I don't know about other booking.
Yeah.
But you'll want to see it more than once, because the people that have seen it have said to us, "Oh my God, there's so much in it."
Yeah.
They want to see it again. But we did it for our own purposes. But we had learned a lot about how to raise money to make movies.
Yeah.
And we try to share that information. And when I was in Hollywood, there was this saying, never wise up a chump. I call screenwriters and directors and producers to come speak at my classes. And I taught at Loyola Marymount University. I taught at University of Southern California. And I taught at Sherwood Oaks Experimental College. And people would say, well, why are you telling people how to do this? We found a map to a gold mine. We know how to write screenplays and make obscene amounts of money. We don't want to tell other people how to do it. So there's a lot of people in the movie industry that don't want to share information. But information is power. And I'm not kidding, Michael. Call me if I can help you in any way on your film. I don't care what your vision is. I will help you. That's what this film's about. And what I say to people is, I don't care what your film's about. Tell your story. I am sick of Spider-Man. I am sick of Marvel. I don't want to see those movies. I am sick of racist, sexist, violent movies that are mindless. I start to watch them and I just go, I've had enough of it. I don't need to see all that.
I can barely watch films anymore. Like, I'm going to cancel my AMC pass because it's like, I'm tired of seeing the same movie over and over with different people.
What you were saying, the theatrical problems with teenagers and stuff popping in the movie on a Saturday night.
It's happened so many times.
It keeps happening to us. I think it's you, because it doesn't happen to me when I'm by myself.
Okay.
I got to say one last thing, too, because I know we're running out of time.
Yeah.
The best movie this year, and I'm in the Directors Guild, I'm on the screening committee, I get all the films. I watch them all. It's painful, but I watch them all.
Yeah.
Belfast was the best movie by far.
I love that movie. And I love Kenneth Branagh. Yeah.
But wait a minute. Lowest budgeted, shot on 4K, small crew, very similar to how I shot my movie. It's the future, guys. I'm really pulling for Belfast.
Yeah.
I think that Kenneth did a great job. I voted for him in the Directors Guild. I just really feel that he did a great job. And he's up against all the other 100 million, 150 million.
Yeah.
And Belfast is kicking their ass. And it's completely artistic. It's uncompromised. And to me, it was cinematic. It was brilliantly acted, brilliantly made, and very moving to me.
Yeah, and a personal story.
Yeah, and that's the kind of film.
Yeah.
So all of your listeners and viewers, go watch Belfast. Forget, you're not going to make West Side Story, and you're not going to make those movies. It's like high school. If you're not in the club, I worked out there. I worked at Warner Brothers. I worked at Paramount. I sold them movies, and then they went off and did whatever they wanted to do. You're not. If you don't know if you're in that club, you're not in that club. Okay, so don't even worry about it. You're an independent filmmaker, and you got to figure out what's in your heart and your head, and you got to put that on screen, and you got to find people like me that are already passionate about Michael and Brad, and however I can help them. I want to help them. I want to help other people. And that's what Scott also shares. And that's what all the people that worked on our movie. And the fact that one movie's already been made, inspired by us making our movie, that's the greatest compliment in the world.
That's a good feeling, yeah.
So if I can inspire you guys today and get you guys back on track, we have to help each other. We have to have a creative community of, I don't care what the content is. Yeah. All the years I was in Hollywood, I would go to these pitch meetings at the studios. They were racist. The villains in these shows had to be black guys or street guys. They wanted profanity. They wanted nudity. They want immorality. They wanted gunplay. They wanted set pieces. I don't want any of that. I want to save the world. I want to inspire people. Yeah. Hollywood has been putting out this crap for years. I mean, go back 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And we've lost our artistic drive. We've lost the inspiration, the triumph of the human spirit. We've got to get back to that. And we've got to stand tall. And here's the big opening. And I write about this in Louise Levinson's book. Go pre-order it. It's a great book. And it's post-pandemic. And I talk about the fact that it's all on the table for independence right now. If you can make a movie that can recoup off streaming and digital download, you can run the table. I'm out here trying to do it, and so far, so good. And we've got some theaters. Yeah. I think we're opening in Indianapolis and I don't know, Boca Raton, some other place. We're opening in a few cities, and that's great. But if you need to recoup 100 to break even, 100 million, that's a different world.
It's hard.
That's a whole different world. Ignore that world. You want to be able to make a film under $1 million you can recoup, and that you have editorial artistic integrity.
Yeah. I totally agree. And it's the fun for me. It's the fun part of making movies is making movies. Yeah. Well, okay. So they find your website, the Instagram, Twitter, anything like that, or would you rather them just go to your website?
Rick Pamplin on Twitter. I have about 150,000 followers. I have a lot of good movie information. Pamplin Film Company on Twitter. I think we have about 88,000 followers.
Nice.
Twitter's been very good to us. We connect with a lot of movie people.
Okay.
We try to help people whenever we can. But remember, I'm primarily a filmmaker. I've retired from producing because I've looked at how Scott DuPont has aged, and I've said that's not for me.
That's where my beard is. This gray in my beard. That's where it's coming from.
Scott is the oldest. He's 29 years old. I've watched him age, and I've said, no, I'm no longer going to be a producer.
Yeah, that's funny.
So I'm just a writer-director these days, so I can focus on my main thing.
Brad was 6 foot tall when we started.
This movie would not have happened without Scott. He raised the money. He believed in me when I came out of a 5-year lawsuit situation. He really believed in me. A lot of your friends, when something goes bad, won't call you, won't return your emails.
Yeah.
You know, the fair weather friends. Scott was a stand-up guy who, when I was down and people had written me off, Scott said, yeah, I'll take a chance. Let's make a movie. And he raised all the money. He produced the film. And he's out here busting his ass, getting it in theaters, getting his screenings at places like Full Sail and Rollins and Kaiser. And he's getting,
awesome.
We got a great distributor, KD Digital Media. KDMG is our distributor in Hollywood. They're fantastic. Some of them are from Warner Brothers. They've been in business about 6 years. They've got a library of 300 films, all independent, great people. It's been a great experience. So yes, go check us out on Twitter. And sincerely, this has been a really great honor. I have a lot of friends that have done this show and spoke well of you guys.
Awesome.
And yes, you too, Brad. They love you.
Even Brad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go, Mike.
All right, Film Reverie listeners. If you want to get in touch with us, it's filmreverypodcast@gmail.com. I'm Becca Meyer on Instagram and Twitter.
I'm calling you up, but don't bother.
He's never on.
I'm not
He's
going to
never on.
respond.
That's it for this time. We'll see you again later. Go make something. That's it.
Do it.
Film Reverie Podcast is a production of Super Mega Ultra Entertainment and is produced by Michael Beckemeyer and Bradley Kingston. If you're enjoying this podcast, please be sure to leave us a 5-star review in iTunes and be sure to click like or subscribe wherever you find us. That's it for this time. We'll see you again next week with another episode of Film Reverie.
The end.